On behalf of the OECS Commission, allow me to warmly welcome you to this special webinar in observance of International Project Management Day, entitled Julien and Beryl, Project Management in the Current Caribbean Context. My name is Shedi Gustav. I'm a second-year CAPE student at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon's proceedings. Today's session is focused on the evolving nature of project management in the Caribbean, especially against the backdrop of challenges such as climate change, economic transitions, and regional integration, and will be guided by our dynamic presenter, Mr. Mark Burnett. Mr. Mark Burnett's journey is a powerful testament to resilience, transformation, and impact. After defying the life-altering challenge of a complex arm amputation, he redefined his purpose, turning adversity into strength, and emerged as a project transformation expert, consultant, engineer, and the author of the Ambidextrous Project Manager. Mark has led mission-critical projects across more than 30 remote Caribbean islands, navigating diverse cultural norms, unique nuances, and project complexities to create lasting positive change on people. His people-centered, adaptive approach to project management empowers countless teams to thrive in dynamic environments, merging strategy with agility to drive meaningful results. Through his obsessive work, Mark inspires leaders and communities to unlock their potential, fostering resilience, innovation, and sustainable progress across the Caribbean and beyond. Before we dive in, permit me to go over a few housekeeping matters, not many, but throughout the duration of the presentation, please feel free to drop any questions that you might have in the Q&A section as opposed to the chat, and we'll address those during the Q&A segment following Mr. Burnett's presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you're ready, as this is going to be an exciting presentation. Mr. Burnett, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Shade. Good day to my audience. It's a pleasure to be here at this Julien and Beryl Lunch and Learn webinar. But first, just let me just extend a heartfelt thanks to the Portfolio Management Office of the OECS for inviting me to share this space with such a dynamic group of proud Caribbean nationals. And to all of you tuning in today, thank you for taking the time out, of your busy schedules to invest in, your growth and learning over lunch. It's always a wonderful opportunity to catch up over lunch, and we promise to make it worth your while. So again, just sit back, relax, and enjoy. So before I get started, I just want to take you guys through two exercises. So a question will be shared in the chat. You guys can just have a look at it, think about it, share your thoughts. And also, but firstly, I just want us to just have a look at this photo here with Julien. And, today we are going to explore project management in the current Caribbean context. Over the years, it has been a big discussion, because we're special people, we're very dynamic, we have a history. And so I believe there's a context for us when it comes on to project management. And so today we're gonna you see project management through the lens of Julien and Beryl. So let's just have a look at the photo here, and what are some of the things that we're seeing here with Julien just by looking at the photo. So one, we can see that it was raining on that day when she won the gold medal. So it's no easy feat. That shared resilience there to beat Shakari in the rain, running such time. We're seeing adaptability. And also, adaptability, I'm sure Julian didn't plan for the rain, so just to go there with her game plan and just adapt to the conditions, you know. And again, as you can see the Caribbean spirit on her face as well. So again, we're celebrating International Project Management Day, the 20th anniversary. We were supposed to have this webinar on the 7th, but due to unforeseen circumstances with Tropical Storm Raphael, we were not able to do so. However, you will now identify why it is so important to see project management in our Caribbean context, because our team had to readjust given the circumstances, to make it possible today. So again, salute to the Portfolio Management Office. And as I said before, we're going to highlight the significance of project management in the Caribbean context and how we can use it to empower each other, for lasting impact. So again, lunch and learn, we have some nice cocktails here, the agenda. Of course, we're going to explore the profiles of Beryl, and we're going to look at some unique obstacles, and we're going to discuss some of the challenges, and we're going to actually see what our future looks like moving forward. So, just looking at the profiles here, Julien and Beryl, I can say to you guys definitely that from what I've observed, with Julien and with Beryl, I am convinced that Julien and Beryl are what I call ambidextrous project managers, because I mean, to be strategic, process driven, efficient, it means that she had the ability to see things from different angle. She was a very flexible athlete. She wasn't stuck in a box. She was just always looking at the bigger picture. And Beryl, natural disaster, people oriented, flexible, the community impact and collaboration. It's not easy to have all these good traits, so Beryl has to be, ambidextrous. And so what is the ambidextrous project manager, really? So as I said, I believe our context is that Caribbean project managers should be ambidextrous because it's our ability to prepare, adapt, recover from crisis that define our strength and resilience. And we have always seen cases where we've defied the odds doing these things. For example, the West Indies cricket team, over the years has been doing well on the global stage, and even from a personal experience too, that's how I actually defied an arm amputation, and that was when I actually realized that, we are naturally ambidextrous project managers in the Caribbean because of our circumstances. So, I mean, what are some key challenges that we face in the Caribbean? These are some tough challenges, and no, just by looking at any concept in a book can solve all these problems that we generally have. So natural disasters. Every year we have a hurricane season, and we have to be proactive in our planning. Earthquake, floods. And most of our islands, countries are, former colonies. So, as they would say, when the bigger countries they sneeze, we catch the flu. So, of course, I mean, global trends generally affect our economies. And so this will impact a lot of the projects that we're doing. And then, of course, we're culturally diverse. And I generally tell people that everything is here in the Caribbean. You have the French, you have the Dutch, you have the Spanish, and then you have the English speaking. So, of course, we have diverse teams, across different islands, different culture. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, we have our similarities, we have our differences. But how can we manage this to our advantage? So that is a challenge, but it is also an advantage for us, and of course you have the resource constraints, you know, um, you know, um, the islands are small, so our pool of resources are generally smaller. So we have to bank on each other for competent resources. And in the case of like technology, of course, our region is smaller. So, of course, most of the times we rely on the bigger countries to supply us with this kind of resource. Now, it leads us to the adaptive strategies for success. So, as I said before, I believe our context in the Caribbean is that we're ambidextrous project managers. And I did define what the ambidextrous project manager was. So, just our ability to prepare, adapt, recover from crisis, so how can we do this? That ambidextrous mindset. It's like, you know, a person who can use both hands with equal skill. An ambidextrous project manager should be able to like manage the demands of today while simultaneously prepare for challenges in the future. And that's what we really see in the Caribbean when in most of our project situations. So how can we do that? How can we have this mindset and this kind of thinking, the ability to think strategically and tactically at the same time? It means that we need to have this open mindset that will give us the agility and the flexibility that is required to respond to situations, to be a little bit more collaborative, build relationships, use our strength, use our similarities and our differences to our strength. There is also the advantage of the community engagement, So because of the cultural diversity, you know, um, we are known to have strengths in different areas, and also we're known for different things. So I believe we could use this to our advantage as well. And also, not only that, but also to, involve, our people in the process, our communities, our community priorities in the process for early buying. And then there's also this one about the sustainability focus, and what is the sustainable focus? So the projects really in the Caribbean is not necessarily about delivering on budget on time, I think a lot of times it's also about the sustainability focus, which that lasting positive impact on the society. And there's an example of this. When I used to work in the telecommunication era, when I started out, long before we had these sophisticated iPhones, Android phones, most of the projects we didn't finish on time and on budget. And little did we know that there would be this mobile evolution. And when the COVID came, we saw we're across the Caribbean, we were able to support each other because of mobile communication, digital communication. So I believe sustainable focus should be a part of our agenda. And then digital transformation, is very important, taking advantage of technology. For example, right now we're seeing the rise of chat GPT. So we could use that as an additional resources where we have limited resources. And I even said a while ago about the telecommunication, so we are way ahead when it comes down to mobile communication, and we are seeing where we're in different countries, but we can communicate with each other and we can build relationships. So, of course, being an ambidextrous project manager, and that is our reality in the Caribbean. I think this really comes with a culture, you know. And so if you really take a look at how we operate in the Caribbean, our reality, it's about teamwork and collaboration. You know, we have the CARICOM, we have the West Indies cricket team, we have a lot of neighboring islands, you know. Our heritage is similar, you know. Most of us were farmer colonies, you know, and so, you know, I mean, we can tap into, you know, the art of, you know, fostering open communication, which will build trust, you know. And there's also the decision making process too, you know, where um, we can navigate the politics, you know, the hierarchical and the democratic structures within organizations and businesses. There's more to projects than that, you know. And then our values and our beliefs, you know, and we're rich in culture. So, and our communities are rich in culture. So we can use this to our advantage, you know, when it comes on to our sustainability focus and the outcomes that we want from some of our projects here in the region. And then finally, local solutions. So our reality is not about, you know, just looking at what is in the book, but, you know, we can learn from what is in the book and we can tailor it to our situations here. So again, we're talking about being adaptable and being creative and just looking at it from different angles. And we adapt to what is required in the different situation to get the job done while working with each other as a team. And then, you know, we're just looking through the lens of Julien and Beryl. So just a quick case study for Julien. So I know Julien wanted to compete at the highest level and bring pride, not only to St. Lucia, but to the Caribbean region. I believe she used to live in some other Caribbean countries. I know she was living in Jamaica at one point. And so, how was she able to do this? You know, this historic moment for her and St. Lucia, you know. So, the challenges that she had, you know, balancing academics and the international competition, you know, I mean, injuries as well. So, she had to be ambidextrous in order for this to happen, you know, the discipline planning, you know, those tough days, you know, it's never easy to leave the Caribbean and go into the States for school, you know, so she had to adapt to those conditions, you know, with her coach, you know, the support systems, you know, meeting new friends and all of this, and even just moving around for the different competitions year in, year out, you know. So it was tough for her, but she managed to navigate all of that by being an ambidextrous project manager from the Caribbean. And then in the case of Hurricane Beryl, you know, yeah, every year we have the hurricane season, and our government, we have to prepare as people, you know. So the objective, prepare for and respond to the impact of Hurricane Beryl. But it is never easy to adapt, to prepare and to adapt to a natural disaster. And we were able to do it. You know, Hurricane Beryl devastated many small islands. You know, and how did we manage the situation and respond to the situation? Beryl had to be an ambidextrous project manager, balancing the severe weather, the limited resources in some of the islands. We had to be supporting each other with food and medical supplies. You know, that's never easy. You know, like the key factors like the proactive planning, like proactive preparedness, planning and anticipation, the resilient execution, the emergency drills, the community support, all of that. That's never easy. So Beryl had to be an ambidextrous project manager for that to happen. The recovery and the resilience process in post-mortem, you know, and building strategies for the future so we can mitigate against any kind of hurricane, any hurricane of the same kind or more devastating. And so just looking ahead to see what the future of project management is like for us here in the Caribbean. And I believe from my experience and just observing Beryl and Julien, I think embrace digital technology is something that we could use to our advantage with that Caribbean people spirit and the power skills that we have, within our culture, communication, building relationships, you know, we can tap into, as I said again, now the chat GP cloud solutions using data analytics to make more informed, strategic, and tactical decision, streamlining more resilient process and resilient systems, and also we're Caribbean people, so we're very resilient and we're forward thinking. So we're always investing in skills development, and so this is very important, that people-centric building yourself, self-improvement. So you're able to have a people-centric leadership style that will create a long-term impact, on individuals and on the society at large. And then again, we talk about the focus on sustainability and cultural understanding, and this we can use to our advantage, dealing with dynamic and diverse teams that will create a long-term value for in communities. We can learn from our strengths, we can learn from our weaknesses as well to become better. And then finally, be ambidextrous. As I said, we are ambidextrous project managers. So adaptive leadership makes the difference, So whatever the situation is, we can work together as a team. We can work together as a collaborative unit. We can build relationship and the trust required with the technical execution skills to get the job done. And so coming to the end of my presentation, thank you guys for having me and thanks for joining. So I'm actually the author for the Ambidextrous Project Manager. And as I said, I was just inspired while I was in the hospital. I was told, when it happened, I was told that my right arm, should have been amputated. And I was in the hospital for months, close to a year. And that's when I realized, working with doctors from all over the Caribbean, who actually saved my arm. And that's when I developed that mindset, that ambidextrous mindset and thinking. And I left the hospital into a project in the Caribbean. And that's how I've been applying the principles of the ambidextrous thinking and the ambidextrous mindset, and it has been fruitful. It has allowed me to travel over 30 plus Caribbean islands, impacting lives and impacting the society. So thanks again for having me, guys, and I will hand over to Shade.
Thank you so much, Mr. Burnett, for your insightful presentation. I think I can speak on behalf of everybody here, all the participants and maybe other persons who will watch later, when I say that your presentation was extremely comprehensive. Thank you so much for the information that you shared. Your perspectives on project management within our region, I believe, are particularly apt in navigating the climate that exists in today's world. At this point, we will be fielding questions from the participants. Remember, any questions that you may have, you should place them in the Q&A section of the call, of the webinar, apologies. And we will address as many questions as time permits. So if at any point you heard something interesting, something piqued your interest, you would like to query something further, you do have an expert in project management here with you. So any general questions you might have, feel free to share them at this point. So I think I'll get the ball rolling. One question I have to ask, because I'm somebody, aside from today, I'm interested in disaster response, disaster preparedness. Have participated in a couple of efforts in responding to disasters and helping people prepare for them as well. So one question I think I'd like to ask you, Mr. Burnett, is how do you think we can integrate climate adaptability and sustainability into project management, especially considering how vulnerable we are as a region? You spoke about it a bit, but I wanted to know if you could maybe expand on it right now.
Yes, sure. I believe in terms of our the proactive planning and anticipation, there are things we can do like the risk assessment. The risk assessment, just identify what are some of the things, some of the threats, and some of the opportunities, that can come out of the different situations, and also like even like resource allocation, just looking at the situations that we have and just tapping into our strengths. So different regions are stronger in certain areas than others, and we can create like a pool of resources, to support in that area. And also like in terms of a communication plan, you know, I mean, like, just probably using technology to, create different communication channels among key stakeholders, in the different sectors that will help us to build better relationships, that will drive some of the key areas forward. And so all of that will create the adaptive and the flexible responses that is required, even recovery and the resilience, and even like building for the strategies for a resilient future.
Okay, thank you so much for that response. And one more question from me. I don't know if it's possible for you to share. I mean, after a presentation, I can understand the applicability of it. But what would have led to you coming to the understanding or the decision to have the webinar today entitled Julien and Beryl, Project Management in the Current Caribbean Context?
Okay, a great question. That's a great question, Shade. So, as I said, I was inspired before, and then I realized that this year was a tough year for us as Caribbean people, and I always say I'm a son of the Caribbean. I'm from Jamaica, but I'm a son of the Caribbean. And after what I saw from Beryl, and then Julian came and she made us proud, I mean, that historic moment for St. Lucia. I mean, we were so proud of her, and even for the Caribbean, defeating the Americans, and so I said, wow. I started to write some articles about Julian, and I wrote an article about Beryl, what I saw. And I realized that Beryl is an ambidextrous project manager, and Julian is an ambidextrous project manager. And then I started to observe a little deeper, and I realized that as Caribbean people, we're naturally ambidextrous project managers. We just need to tap into it. And then that's how I wrote the book as well, the Ambidextrous Project Manager. I eventually published the book.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. And I think even with the explanation and your presentation today, I think we can all see the applicability and see the merit in just how ambidextrous we are as a people. And I think too from your presentation, we've been able to glean how we can adapt as well.
Yes.
All right. I think we have a question sent in the chat, and it's from Mr. Cornelius Isaac, and he's asking, what is a good reference for stakeholder engagement strategy?
Stakeholder engagement strategy. could Mr. Isaac be a little bit more specific, if he may?
Mr. Isaac, I'm not sure if you're able to, but okay, he's expanding now. But in the meanwhile, we do have another question. While he types out the explanation, we do have another question. What advice would you give to budding project management professionals working in the region? Students, current persons seeking expertise, etc. So what advice would you give to them?
Okay, so there are many advices, right? But I mean, the one that I would give, I mean, I would say, um, just be prepared to become uncomfortable to become comfortable. Because why I say this, in order to become an ambidextrous project manager and a great project manager or any leader, you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations where it will force you to learn and see things outside of the lens that you were seeing them before. It will improve you. It will even help you to build some relationships that you didn't fathom before. So what I would encourage is to develop an open mindset that will allow you to become comfortable, to put yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable, because that's where the growth is. For
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Mr. Isaac has not, okay, he just sent it in. And I will read it out now. So he really wants to ask what approaches are best suited for engaging key stakeholders within the project.
Okay. Um, so I mean, first, active, active critical listening. So I mean, when you go into any situation or any project, the first thing that you will try to do is to listen, you know, and by listening, just listening, just understand what the temperature is, and from listening, you are better able to know the different personalities that you're dealing with. And based on the different personalities, you will know how to categorize them. And from that, you're better able to build the strategic or the tactical relationships that you need to build in order to get the different tasks executed within that project situation. So I would say, firstly, you have to go in with that mindset of, like a servant leader, where you try to listen and understand the people, and then from there categorize their interests, or their skill sets, you know and then from there you will build the requisite relationship around that in order to prioritize and get the different tasks or initiatives executed. I don't know if this response is helpful for Mr.
I believe that it would be. And if at any point, Mr. Isaac, you need clarification, or anybody really has any questions, any comments I'd like to make, feel free to share them as well. We do have one or two more questions that we'd like to ask. And I'll be asking, well, as a young person, I'd want to know for the young people who might be here listening or will be watching later. But how do you think young professionals, particularly young project management managers in the Caribbean, can be better integrated into project management initiatives? And are you aware of any mentorship opportunities that are available for young people in the region?
Yes. So I would say, I would say first, um, I mean, the youth, they need to first just see project management as everything in life is a project. So, most times what I realize in the Caribbean is, like, we only think about project, um, the initiatives that are happening in the corporate space. But if you really look around you, even at school, even for example, we did this webinar, right? It was a project. We executed it like a project. So everything is a project. So just first develop that mindset that everything is a project. And then of course, I mean, in terms of the formal learning, um, there are different certifications out there, that a project manager can undertake. There are different institutions that have. So, for example, I know UWI, the University of the West Indies. For those who are going UWI, I mean, used to mentor students, undergraduate students at UWI. And even, I know, yeah, also, even at school, within the workplace, your boss could also be a mentor if you are brave enough to go and ask for some kind of support. you know you can definitely get it. Another place to go is also on LinkedIn. You can learn a lot also on LinkedIn. There is a lot of project management activities happening over there. You can meet people. So I believe one of the best way to for personal development is networking, meeting people. And just by building these relationships, you will find yourself in different spaces that you didn't even imagine.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Burnett. I think a lot of young people will find that advice particularly helpful. We have another comment here. I'll comment on a question. Very good presentation and great story. The CDB and other agencies have lamented that the region struggle with project implementation. Project implementation, with some countries experiencing implementation deficits. What advice can you provide in reducing the gap and creating that mindset shift to becoming ambidextrous project managers? I don't know if you'd like me to repeat the question.
Oh, I mean, it's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question. So what I can say is, I know about that as well, and as I said, it has been a hot topic for some time now in the Caribbean. And so to for the gap to improve, I believe the first thing that we need to change is how how, how can project how can this area of project management support our different initiatives, like what kind of value, what kind of benefits it will have. Because if you don't identify that from the start and build your strategic plans around it, then you will not know you're not able to see the value in it. So I think first we need to understand, like, you know how project management will impact our bottom line, our outcome, like what benefits it will bring, whether it's a return on investment benefit, and from there, we're better able to integrate it within our strategic plans. And then from there, we're better able to, drill this down into the operations where the execution generally happens. And so, how to improve this? So, I believe, just starting with webinars like this. So, I've written a book on the Ambidextrous Project Manager from my experience coming out of the hospital and applying these principles across the Caribbean. So, I thought that this is a way how to start this genesis in the region, to have our own kind of identity, blending in with the other things that we know, I mean, to be more impactful and more empowering within our societal space.
Okay, thank you so much. And if at any point, again, further clarification is needed, okay, we're getting a thumbs up. Thank you, Mr. Burnett, for your answer.
You're most
Uh,
welcome.
Another question for you. In terms of project managers, and I think you'd mentioned it during your presentation, where project managers sometimes based on limited resources, limited time, limited abilities to communicate, sometimes projects end up going over time and sometimes over budget as well. So what advice do you have for budding project managers, career project managers, for prioritizing within a project? Just general advice.
Okay. So I would say I mean, the first thing is to approach the situation with an open mindset. So you're going in not with a template or a pre-established style of doing things, but you go into the situation with an open mindset, meaning that if you're working with a client, you're going there to first understand the needs of the client, the priorities of the client, and then so you're going there to understand the needs of the client, and then from that, the next step is to prioritize how the client wants to execute these needs. And not only to just do the prioritization and execute, but you also have to build a relationship with the client. So for you don't just execute and then at the end of something you deliver it to the client. You want to execute and keep building a relationship with the client, keep them involved in the process. So I mean, you can build small wins, you can build trust, you can fail fast as well, and you can learn from failing fast. you know the team can grow from failing fast, and then from there you're better able to overcome all those things around the constraints and the client dissatisfaction. But the first thing is to go in and try to understand what the needs are and prioritize based on what is it the client wants or how the client want to execute those needs, and keep them involved in the process for those small wins and big wins. And I mean, after every small win or a big win, you celebrate, you continue to build those relationships, and then it will become more impactful and sustainable. So after one project, the client may require another project, and it will go on like this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Um, I'm just making sure we have no more questions from the chat. Q&A is clear. Believe the chat is clear. And so once again, Mr. Bennett, thank you for fielding the questions. Participants, thank you for asking the questions. And I hope that everyone who posed the questions was able to get a satisfactory response, which I think Mr. Bennett did extremely well. So thank you, Mr. Bennett.
You're most welcome.
Right, and thank you, participants, for the thought-provoking questions, especially.
And
As Mhm.
also, if it is anyone wants to reach out, I mean, for any further clarification on something, I would be happy to provide additional responses as well.
Okay, great. I believe your contact information was shared on your presentation. I don't know if you'd like to pull it up again or if it's already up. Well, it's already up.
Yeah.
Um, so persons can contact you via the information shared to get any further clarification, or like you had mentioned earlier, the importance of networking to network. So persons viewing online right now with us or later on when this is posted, kindly take note. Thank you again for the questions. Thank you, Mr. Burnett, for your responses. But I think right now we're moving to conclude. So as we conclude, I'd like to ask that you participants participate in the poll that is now going to go up on your screen. It won't take very long to do. Very short, very simple questions and fairly simple responses. As you do so, I would like to say a heartfelt thank you to each and every person that made today's webinar in recognition of International Project Management Day possible. First and foremost, thank you to our presenter, Mr. Mark Burnett, for his insightful presentation. His points on the need for fostering open communication in project management and utilizing local solutions in our region's journey to being more adaptable, as well as on investing in skill development and embracing adaptive leadership are very, very, very keen assessments of what we should aim to do as a region. We also say a special thank you to the Portfolio Management Office of the OECS. You can't see them right now, but they're around and they've been working assiduously to ensure that today's webinar was possible and a success. So Ms. Sonia Reese and Mr. Garfield, we say thank you, thank you, thank you, as well as to the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College for their efforts in making today possible. We also say thank you to the IT department of the OECS, before I forget, who have also ensured that everything is running smoothly, that the poll up on your screen is working well, and that whatever hiccups that may have come up were easily solved and put to rest very quickly. So we say thank you to them as well. And most importantly, we say thank you to each and every one of you for dedicating your time in attending today's webinar. The questions presented were very thought-provoking, extremely insightful, and I think today we were able to engage in a very fruitful discussion. So thank you for your attendance today. We encourage you to continue this conversation on project management, on being an ambidextrous project manager, and explore ways to apply these strategies in your projects. I think today one of the biggest takeaways for me was the emphasis Mr. Burnett had placed on the need for adaptive leadership. I think it's said a lot. And I think as time progresses, especially with the challenges that we're facing with climate change, with so many issues surrounding adaptability, that when you look at our region now, that is exactly what is needed. Thank you to those of you who attended. Thank you, Mr. Burnett, for your presentation. Thank you to the OECS for making today possible with their planning and all their efforts, as well as to the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College for their efforts in making today possible as well. Thank you, participants, for logging on. Keep an eye out over the next coming weeks for this webinar. It will be posted on YouTube, so keep an eye out for that. If you want to share it with somebody or something was said and you want to revisit it, or you just want to just listen to this discussion, beautiful discussion again, it will be made available to you. So keep an eye out for that. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And though belated, happy International Project Management Day. Thank you, everyone.